And all we're trying to do is for the Army Corps of Engineers to be a player in this big team to be able to help bring down this bed shortage. Governor Cuomo asked the president about 10 days ago to say we need a national effort to be able to help figure out the bed shortage. So when that came up, we rallied the Corps of Engineers to be able to figure out how to solve a very, very complicated problem. And you can't solve a complicated problem with a complicated solution. You need a very, very simple solution. So we sat down, and I'm talking about the entire federal state team here, to try to figure out what would some capability of a hospital expansion look like. We had to figure out from the HHS people what were the medical considerations. We work with FEMA, so we had to figure out what were their constraints. And you can't do this by building hospitals across the nation in 2 to 3 weeks. So we came up with a standard design that basically put in the medical parameters and then looked at, is it COVID, i.e. infected people, or non-COVID? And therefore, what does the state want to do, and how do we apply that standard design? Here's the most important part. We wanted to take and use an existing facility. To build a hospital on a flat parking lot can take years to do that right. We knew we only had a matter of weeks in most of these cities. So we wanted to bring in either a temporary hospital. FEMA has several of these. The Army and DOD has several of those. How do you move a temporary hospital into an existing facility? Or here's the real power of the idea. There's a lot of hotels that are vacant right now and a lot of dormitories that are vacant. How could you leverage those vacant facilities? They all have electricity, they have fire code, they all have parking lots, they all have water. They even have staffs that we could use to help support this operation. How could we modify some of those facilities, be they contained like a dorm or a hotel, or be they a large area like the Javits Center or a field house or a convention center, to be able to accept that medical plant, plug, that would then basically relieve the pressure off the hospitals and mainly pull the non-COVID patients out of the hospitals. So we started calling governors. Again, we work for FEMA. There are FEMA regional directors. There are HHS regional directors. We kind of knew, based on some of the CDC analysis, where the hot spots are going to be. So we basically contacted 50 governors. I've got 21 planning teams today that are embedded into state capitals to be able to help the governor and the mayors determine what's the best application. I think as of this morning, we have 103 different sites that we're looking at. Some of those sites might have 8 or 10 different buildings. And the hospital, the bed requirement, we're still looking at. But it's in the thousands, if not tens of thousands. So the Javits Center is a great example. We're going to walk you through that one in a minute. I do want to take a mention just to be able to kind of walk you through what the concept looks like. So I'll use a chart here. So if you go to a regular, normal hotel room that's out there somewhere on the side of a big highway, what we want to do is to be able to use almost everything in the hotel. The hotel furniture, all of the HVAC, all the rest. And then we would come in as engineers and we would make some minor changes. If the state wants to try to have that COVID, which means, again, an infected patient, we would bring the pressure down in that room to a negative pressure. We're working with our HVAC teams now, but we believe that the majority of an average hotel HVAC system, we can bring down enough to have a negative pressure. You got to put a special baffle on the door. We would do that as well. And then we would also, we think electrical we're okay, but we might have to make some electrical modifications. If it's not COVID, it's a lot easier because you don't have to worry about the pressure. You don't need to worry about necessarily all the rest of the equipment. And then site adapted, be it a dormitory or a hotel, how does somehow you be able to make that happen? The other big one is to do it in a large arena of some sort. So this is actually a graphic, a notional graphic of what a football field looks like. And then how do we come in with patient pods? These are probably some containerized walls, probably about 10 foot by 10 foot. On this particular one, There's probably about 50 in each one of these different wings, and then a nurse's station that is able to service those particular patient pods. My colonel here in New York City, Colonel Asbury, is on the ground with his team, and he's going to walk you through in a minute how we're actually doing this.
So here's the typical layout, the standard design that we're working off of. So you have a nursing station, you have patient areas, these are labeled as pods, and this is what it could look like if you set something up on a stadium field. What we had was the state they identified the Javits Center with hundreds of thousands of square feet of space. And so what we did, we site adapted that, and we took initially where this FMS, these federal medical stations, we wanted to allocate about 160,000 square feet in order to put a 1,000 patient area capability here. And so this is our phase one that we're looking at providing a capability. And these sets come with all the beds and the equipment, the wraparound services that are required to provide health care. We were able to do that in a pretty rapid manner because the Javits Center, a convention center, these centers can set up and tear down, hundreds of venues annually. And so working with a professional organization such as the Javits Center, they already have a team of professionals that can do this. And so as we were looking at the standards design that comes with an FMS set, they said, hey, can we have some partitions? We want some more privacy. How can we make the patient care area a little bit more private? And so the Javits Center, they set up this 10 by 10 partition construct, and we said, hey, that's perfect. Everybody looked at it, and they said, hey, that works. So we went with that idea, and then we just replicated it.
But we're actually taking 4 FEMA hospitals that are 250-person hospitals, and they're building them inside the Javits Center. Those hospitals are the nucleus of what could be then a much more expanded capability, and that's what Tom Asbury's doing, is then figuring out, if I've got 1,000 in that nucleus, how many more can we build to lean off that nucleus? We think in Javits we'll have about 2,900. The first 500 or so will come in a couple days, and then the New York district will continue to build the Javits Center back out.
Now the state has already nominated 4 priority sites that I'm working. The Javits Center is number 1. I awarded a contract last night for Westchester Community Center, and that is going to be a COVID facility, and that contract was awarded, and so we're going to begin to initiate construction in the next several days as that project gets underway. The next 2 priorities given to us from the governor and then assigned to us under a mission assignment task order is for SUNY Westbury and also SUNY Stony Brook. So 2 other counties, Nassau County and then Suffolk County.
We've already written 4 performance workstations. COVID hotel, non-COVID hotel. COVID arena, non-COVID arena. So we can show how we would take that facility, convert it as the state wants to. We've even gone to the point of coming up with a notional lease that if a city wanted to write a lease with a hotel, we've already shown them kind of how it looks like. There's state codes, there's state rules. We don't have the time to be able to figure all that out. The state's got to get in and do that on their own.
But what we've done, on the Corps of Engineers side, is we've tried to flatten our acquisition process as much as possible. And I tell you what, our acquisition community of practice has been phenomenal to do this in a timely manner, really looking at the tools within policy and guidance and law in order to make this a very successful and fast process as we can.
And I got to emphasize again, when we go out as engineers, we normally say, here's the mission, how long does it take us to do this, and we come up with a period of performance. In the Corps of this period, we can't do it that way. We're saying, when is the curve going to hit this city? And I'm telling my colonels and I'm telling contractors that are working for us, you don't have the luxury of doing it the way you'd like to do it. You have to do this so that it is the good enough solution, just barely in the nick of time. and then it's going to be ruthless execution, and contractors have to be innovative of how to apply a very, very standard concept in a decentralized execution throughout the entire United States of America.